Well, since she's already athletic and does pretty well on her own accord, the fact that you're an addict.
Are you an addict?
I am an
Are
addict.
you?
The Catwalk Podcast showcases the greatest of the people of the Permian Basin through partnering in conversation with high-level leaders, social entrepreneurs, nonprofit leadership, and industry executives.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of The Catwalk. I'm your host, Jay Whitlow, and not sitting in the hot seat chair this week, but I want to give a great shout-out to Chris, who hosted the show last week and interviewed me. By the way, there's Chris sitting over there. How you doing, Chris?
Good, you?
I'm doing well. You know, this is a special moment for you, I think. This is the 30th anniversary of the Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan fiasco in the Olympics. Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember watching that coverage on the news when it went down.
Yeah, that was a huge event. They've even done a movie about it called Tonya and I. And
It's called I, Tonya.
Oh, I, Tonya. Okay, sorry. I, Tonya. Or Tonya and I, either one, right?
Yeah, it sounds like a love story.
It's definitely not a love story, let me tell you. So that made me think today that briefly I want to run something by you because you're a 90s kid, right? Or kind of the 90s was your thing.
Yeah, I guess I was raised in the 90s.
Yeah.
Born in the early 80s,
Right?
but raised in the 90s.
Primarily 90s. Okay. I'm an 80s kid, but was obviously around in the 90s. So here's what I want to do real quick. Which decade do you think had the most wheels off, drama-filled, everybody's glued to the TV events? The 80s or the 90s? So, yeah, what do you think?
I'm going to have to say the 90s because you've got the Menendez brothers.
Yeah.
You've got the Tonya Harding trial. You've got the O.J. Simpson trial.
OJ huge.
And what was it? Gotti trial was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
So all of the unhinged celebrity crime
Yes.
was
Yes.
real heavy in the 90s.
Yes. In fact, I made a list because I thought, let's judge this because there was some big ones in the 80s, but there's some big, you've already named OJ, probably one of the top three
Right.
of the 90s. But here's the 80s. So tell me, jump in at any moment if you're like, oh my gosh, I remember where I was on that. And maybe this will spark some interest from some of our viewers and listeners. So in the 80s was the John Lennon assassination,
Right.
the Reagan assassination attempt,
Yeah.
the Beirut bombing,
Okay.
Chernobyl, the Challenger exploding, that accident. I remember I was sitting in a chemistry class watching that on TV. And then great to the Midland is the Jessa McClure, baby Jessica. Remember when she fell down the well?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, she fell down the well. That's what put Midland, other than oil and gas, that's what kind of put Midland on the map. But then you get to the 90s. Now, the ones that you mentioned, I want to add the Branch Davidian
Oh, yeah.
compound with David Koresh down in Waco. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And then there was the Atlanta Olympic bombing,
Right.
the Oklahoma City bombing.
Right.
You didn't mention Princess Diana's death.
That's true.
That was huge.
I remember.
Where were you when that happened?
It was late at night, and I was sitting on the living room floor because I'd walked in because I think we was getting ready for bed.
Yeah.
And it was all over the news, and my dad was sitting on the couch just watching TV before he winds down for the night.
Yeah.
And it just kind of ended up sucking me in.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there watching it.
Yeah. You think Diana or OJ was the bigger draw on television?
I think OJ was the bigger draw because it went longer, and
Yeah.
so it built more suspense, more drama to it.
There was also Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yep.
the Clinton scandal with the blue dress,
Yep.
right? Then the death of Selena,
Yeah.
the singer. Then there was John Benet Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
That whole crime. What if that was today on podcast world? That would be like huge. Then you had the World Trade Center bombing, not 9/11.
Yeah.
But remember, there was a bombing there. And then, of course, the Y2K scare, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that whole year in 99 when everybody thought the world was going to end because of the calendar and stuff? And then in the 2000s, you had obviously 9/11, but you had Hurricane Katrina, you had Hurricane Harvey, and you had Kurt Cobain's death. I can't think of a whole lot of more bigger decade than the 90s.
Did you say Kurt Cobain?
Didn't he die in 2000s?
I'm pretty sure he died before that.
Or did he die in 90s? You know,
Kurt
fact
Cobain
check me?
died in 1994.
Did he really?
Yes.
He died in 94?
Yes.
Wow, okay, I'd stand corrected on that. So that's
I was
another
like,
90s thing.
You crazy
I
person.
am a crazy
Like,
person. Well, all the years run together. But I would say the 90s was the biggest decade that at least I'm aware of, or that I was alive for, that really shaped the drama on television.
yeah.
Right? And you've worked in television before. Did you ever cover any of these when you were working? Or were you too young?
No, none of those. I didn't start news coverage until 98
98?
radio.
Okay.
So we didn't, and it was in Lubbock when I first started. So we didn't really get that much going on.
Right.
We'd cover in the idea of like when National had something going on, we would take that and maybe rewrite it so we could localize it or interview somebody that would have some form of connection to it.
Yeah.
But I think a handful of things that I have been a part of, and most recently is the mass shooting here in the Midland, Odessa.
Yeah.
And then the El Paso shooting
Right.
that happened. Did a lot of coverage with that. The Katrina stuff I was involved in on a local level.
Okay. Yeah.
And because in Lubbock, they sent a lot of refugees from New Orleans to Lubbock.
Okay.
So
yeah.
we did a lot of kind of coverage on interviewing them, getting
Right.
their thoughts, things that normally locally you wouldn't have access to, but we were able to
Right.
talk to and kind of gain insight on the
Right.
situation.
So any of these that happened in the 80s and maybe early 90s, did any of those moments when you were thinking about going into TV or media coverage like that, did any of those events like help drive you in to want to be into that industry?
So there are, how to phrase this. There are a couple of things that I've experienced that I wished I could be a part of,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's kind of where it started. And I think the OJ trial was the first piece of that
Yeah.
because I watched that nonstop, right? I was hooked on it. It really drove me, and it was not the watching the trial, but it was watching the news coverage at the
Right.
end of the night
Right.
where they would kind of wrap up and summarize everything that was going on. And then there was some 9/11 coverage.
Mm-hmm.
I was already in school looking like doing the studying for media and communications, and it really lit a fire
Mm-hmm.
under me to do more with that because I'm watching all these people, and that's really kind of birthed the amateur reporter, right? There were a
Right.
lot of people writing blogs at the time was the main
That
thing
was huge.
of their experiences. And that's really kind of what inspired me. Like seeing the news coverage was really well done. Like it's weird to say something positive about something
Right.
like that. But it was really well done to kind of humanize everything because it was so grand
Right.
that it's hard for us to really understand and comprehend a lot of it. Like naturally we say this horrible incident happened, this many people died, and our first response is, oh my God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Right? But we don't dive deeper into that
Sure.
human connection of it. And I think during the 9/11 coverage, we were really good about doing that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great
And
point.
so connecting to that made me want to be able to connect with other people. And it inspired me to keep going because I was thinking about going entertainment at the time because my
Entertainment side of television.
yeah, the entertainment side of television. The number one reason I got into broadcasting was Tony Schiavone in WCW Monday Nitro.
Really?
Wrestling. Yeah, he's the main reason.
That's
But
awesome.
transitioning into news, I think happened about the 9/11 moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would definitely say that the '90s had more events than the '80s, so the '90s trumped the '80s. I want to talk to you real quickly about our guest that's coming up. I'm excited to introduce to you Joni Robinson. Joni was born in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. She moved to Odessa in August of 1998 to work in the ISD here as a speech language pathologist. Joni has worked in various schools, nursing homes, and hospitals while she's been here in Texas. She's married to Todd, her husband. They have 4 kids, 3 grands. A little thing about Joni, she leads a women's ministry group locally here. She also helped launch Embrace Grace, which is a group for women who experience unexpected pregnancies. And she also has supported and launched the Rodeo for Kids with Special Needs. So I'm excited for you to hear our conversation with Joni Robinson.
Elevate your operation with Performance Chemical Company, the pioneers in redefining chemical solutions for the oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin. Unveiling groundbreaking ideas since 2017, our dry chemistry plant stands as a testament to innovation. Our products and services revolutionize water treatment, production, midstream, and saltwater disposals. We're your strategic partners in optimizing investments, slashing operating expenses. Performance Chemical Company. How you get there matters.
Welcome, my guest, Joni Robinson. How are you, Joni? Welcome to the Catwalk.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
I got a couple things before we jump into your bio that I want to discuss with our viewers. We've known each other for quite some time. In fact,
A long time.
I performed the wedding of you and your husband, Todd. Do you remember this?
I do remember this.
You do
in
remember?
your living room.
That was the first one.
The
that was
second
the
one,
first. That was when you guys just were like, "Can we just hurry up and get married and
Run away.
do that and run away?" And so I married you, performed the ceremony in my house,
Yes.
in living room. So thank you for that. And then we had a ceremony
We did.
on New Year's Eve.
We did.
What year was that?
2012.
2012. So I looked back on my records, and I just wanted to let you know that I didn't get my license to marry until the next day. It wasn't approved until 2013.
So they're going to kick me back to Canada?
I don't know. You are from Canada,
Yeah.
so maybe they will. It's kind of like The Proposal, that movie where you're going to have to go back. You're going to have to marry somebody here.
Sandra Bullock.
Now, your name. When I first met you, I kept calling you Joni because it's spelt Joni. So give me the story about your name.
Well, someone a lot more famous than me, Johnny Erickson Tata, is spelled the same way. That's actually where my mom got the spelling from.
What's her story? Do you know?
She dove, I think when she was 16, dove into a river and broke her neck and became an artist. And now, coincidentally, it's kind of funny, an old friend of ours, Sean Kuntz, worked for her company, Johnny and Friends, and my daughter volunteered there for the last few years
Really?
at the Johnny and Friends, working with children with disabilities.
Okay, so tell me about your family. You just mentioned your daughter, so tell me about your family.
Okay, so I'm married to my husband, Todd, and he has 2 children. Taylor is married to Mark, and she's our favorite because she gave us 3 grandchildren. So we have 3 boys. Lots of loud, noisy, rambunctious boys. Bane is 6, and the twins, Ace and Stone, are 4.
Wait, what are their names?
Ace and Stone,
Ace and Stone.
and Bane is the 6-year-old.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because when I read the bio, it said that you had 4 kids and 3 grands, and I'm like, wait a minute.
She's not that old.
Well,
That's what
maybe
you were
not
thinking.
the old
Come on
part, but
now.
I was thinking, wait, you're Jace and McKenna, they have kids?
Right.
I don't know.
No, I have bonus kids.
Yeah, bonus
I'm a
kids.
bonus mom. I'm not sure they would agree to that every day, but That's how I feel.
Well, now a good friend of ours asked me when I told him that I was going to be interviewing you and having you as a guest on the show. He was like, "Oh, you got to ask her this one question." So I'm going to ask you this question: do you ever envision McKenna being a Wyndham? And that
No,
being a
she is
good
not
friend of
allowed.
ours,
She is
Gary
not allowed.
Wyndham, one of his sons.
Both of his sons.
Both of his
actually.
sons, like your daughter. And so, what would it be like if your daughter?
She's gonna kill you.
She is going to kill me on that. So that's just a little one of our good friends between us doing that. So, all right. So
There's
how did-
Taylor, and I have another one named Cole.
Cole.
So Cole is
Okay.
29, and he lives here in Odessa.
Okay.
And then I have McKenna, and McKenna is at A&M. She is completing her final semester in kinesiology,
Right.
hoping to find a job in like sports, kind of the sports fitness world.
Right.
So she will apply for her doctorate programs next year.
Wow. Okay. So wait, Jace broke his patella.
That's a kneecap.
That's a kneecap. Okay. I was thinking that was like a chicken parmesan dish, the patella. Okay. How did he do that?
He missed a hit. So he was going.
Well, he's
his-
playing ringlet, right?
His
No
sister
contact.
actually got it on video. So he literally is going towards hitting somebody. They skated past and he hit the boards, and it was just how he landed.
So he hit the board, not a person,
Right, and then
and
it was over.
and broke the kneecap.
The kneecap.
Is that painful?
It was very painful, I guess, the first couple days, and then he didn't really complain about it, because American insurance. He got to the hospital. They verified my insurance because I'm a lowly educator. And they said, no, we can't fix you here. You
We're gonna
have to
get
go
into
on
that
a
in a minute.
plane and go all the way back to Texas before you can have surgery. So that's kind of how that went down. Now, if he was in Canada, they would have fixed it.
Okay.
For
are
free.
you American or are you Canada? Canadian?
Really?
Yeah. Are you Canadian?
I am a Canadian.
You're a Canadian.
Don't get me like shipped back from your show.
Living
though.
here on a what?
I'm on a visa,
On a visa.
green card.
A green card.
I'm a permanent resident alien.
A PR. You're an alien?
I'm an
Oh, that's
alien. Like
awesome.
there's actually a thing at the border. I have my own lane to go through that says
You
permanent
do?
resident alien. Yeah.
Okay, we're not going to get any political stuff here. Jace broke his back, didn't he?
He did. He broke his
a
back
year or two before this?
when he was 14. So that was, I
He's
think,
14.
4 or 5 years
He
ago.
played with my son,
Yes,
and
they
that's
did.
it happened during that season, I think, wasn't it? Back then.
I think he was older. I think your kid had already ditched hockey by then.
How old is Jace now?
19.
Okay, Reese is 21, so he's 2 years older than him.
Yeah.
Okay, so you played hockey. You got hockey family. Are you involved in hockey today?
Yes,
In any
the
way?
Odessa Jackalopes play here in Odessa, and so we are a host family. We call them billets in Canada. So we are a billet family, which means the boys that come and live here are between 18 and 21, and they need homes to live at during the season, families to become a part of, and so we host kids. We only have one right now. We normally maintain 2, but one of ours got traded to Bismarck, North Dakota.
So they live with you.
They live with
They-
us. Thanks.
Okay, well, let's get into how you got here, right? Because you said you're Canadian on a green PR visa alien card or whatever it's called. So walk me through, how did you end up in Odessa all the way from Saskatchewan?
So every degree you get in the United States, you get a year to live here. So, and I don't know if that's changed, but that's how it was way back in like 1995. So every degree, I had 2 degrees. I had a bachelor's and a master's, and so I had 2 years to work in the States. And so we decided we were going to live somewhere hot, had some job opportunities, took the one in Odessa, Texas. And then my cousin, we were sitting down one day, and she's like, I'm graduating with my massage therapy license. I'll go with you. And so we hopped in a car and drove down to West Texas and got an apartment, and the rest is history.
Wait, after you got your degree, which was in,
Speech Language Pathology.
which is SLP.
Yes, sir.
'cause you sent that to me on your bio, and I was like, what the heck is a SLP? I was trying
We don't know what we
everything
need. We don't know what we do until you need us.
Yeah.
And then
So you got this degree, and then you thought, I'm just going to go anywhere in the United States?
I
How did you narrow it down to Odessa out of all the hot cities?
I applied for. I had a speech pathologist contact here in Odessa, so I applied to the school district, and then I had one. I think it was Bakersfield, California, that I went to, and so we just decided. Like, I kind of interviewed, thought I could live anywhere for a few years, and then luckily I drove in the dark.
Yes,
And I lived with a family who was the special ed director of ECISD at the time, Gay Jenkins. And she told me, like, drew a map and said, you can go find apartments inside this square. Like, I wasn't allowed to go, like, past certain streets to find an apartment. So we ended up living right behind HEB in some apartments.
Okay, yeah.
On Grandview.
Yeah,
Like maybe
yeah.
2-3 blocks behind HEB.
That's been a long time.
It's been a long time. I mean, I bought a house here. My first house.
You bought a what?
A house?
What was that word she just used?
We bought a house here for like
house.
a house.
A house.
A house.
Okay.
And like it was like $50,000 when we bought it. And I think my brother bought one the same year in Calgary, the same smaller square footage for like $500,000 or $800,000. Like, it was crazy different.
Yeah. So your degree is the speech language pathologist.
Yes, and I am analyzing you as you talk.
Yes, I would like a report at the end of this. So what is that? What do you do with that, and why that degree?
Well, it's very hard to explain and easy to explain kind of at the same time. So I work primarily with children, is probably what most people know us for, with communication. So whether it's a child who stutters, I've worked with voice disorders, language and articulation, like kids who can't say their R's and their S's are common, right? Children who just don't have any language, they can't express themselves or they don't understand what's being asked of them. Primarily, a lot of people with autism. We work with a lot of children with autism, but then a lot of other disabilities as well. So I literally tell people I play all day, which is pretty accurate.
Play all day?
I play all day.
Yeah.
Very accurate. I also have worked in the hospital setting, so I do a lot of swallowing disorders, cognitive rehab after strokes. At one point in my career, I did a group called the Lost Chords Club, and it was people who had laryngectomies, and they used those, I can talk like this, those little machines.
Oh, the little hole.
Yeah. They
ventriloquist
call
thing.
them their blowholes when
Yes.
it's them because they
my
can
gosh,
get in the
can you
shower
say
and blow
that?
things out. And then just 3 years ago, we opened up a private practice, so it kind of allows us, my partner and I opened one up.
So with kids, have you seen over the time that you got this degree many, many years ago to now, and you've worked with them, have you seen that become more prevalent in kids? I mean, are we getting better as a society in the way we're speaking and talking, or is it getting worse?
I don't know. I think I always feel like the pendulum shifts, right? For a lot of years, you'll have a lot of kids with autism, and right now we do have a prevalence of children with autism. 10 years ago, we had a prevalence of kids maybe with auditory processing disorders was new. And sometimes you'll have like, wow, this year I have like 10 kids with stuttering disorders on my caseload, or, so it kind of shifts a little bit, but ultimately I feel like across the board, whether it's me working with the youth in our church or working at school, kids are kids, and the percentages I don't think change a lot. Maybe how we view things or how we decide we're going to treat children in the schools changes, but ultimately kids are kids, and it doesn't change a lot over the years.
Is there a misunderstanding toward kids who fall into that category? Because I know, when I was in junior high and grade school and high school and stuff, it seemed like those were the kids that just got pushed away and they were pushed aside. But that's changed now, right?
Yes. Primarily, a lot of schools have their primary mode of special education in the classrooms, right? Like we push in, we call it. We still, if they need it, everybody will pull them out. But it's fun to kind of be in with the classrooms and doing things with the kids. They learn better that way in a lot of areas. There's a big need for teaching communication in like therapy settings as well. Like we make a lot of progress in the therapy setting when it's just one-on-one or one-on-three. So I think it could be both. I think you need both. I think you need the whole spectrum of how we're going to, based on who the child is and what their needs are.
So do you do the testing, or do you take the child after they've been tested and then you work a program?
No, I'm like the only person on my campus for speech and language. So I do all the testing, do the meetings with the parents, put the kid in, and then they come see me and I do all the therapy. We have a team for children that are outside of communication disorders. So let's say that we think this child might be autistic, then we call in a licensed professional in psychology that will come in and test that child. Or if I think the child has a reading disorder or a learning disability, then I call in our diagnostician and she does her testing and we collaborate and do that together.
So what was it that maybe it's one moment, maybe it was something from your childhood that caused you to want to navigate that way to that career?
So growing up, we had a lot of family friends. So my family is relatively small. It's me and my mom and my dad and my brother. So my grandparents lived on one side of the country and my other grandparents lived on the other side. But we were very involved in the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church. So through that, my mom is actually a missionary kid. So she grew up China, Hong Kong, overseas. So those families kind of take care of each other, and there's a lot of connection with this pastor's kind of families. And so there was a family that they took care, good care of my mom, and then my mom in turn, when their kids were younger, my mom was very involved in their lives. Their kids were very involved in my life. My brother actually pastored at the Son's Church for years, and so Patty and Garth had these children, these children, and Jamie was born with what was called Rett syndrome. And so back then when Jamie had it, I want to say there was 50 kids in the world that had this disease. And so she developed typically for a lot of years, and then she eventually lost her ability to walk. She lost her ability to talk, and then she sat in a wheelchair, And I remember watching her through that and watching her in therapy, and that's kind of how I got involved in what speech therapy was.
Are there some groups in Midland, Odessa for, let's say there's a young family that's watching, listening, and they're finding out that maybe there's an issue with their child. Are there some groups? How do they reach out to find out and not spend a whole lot of money? What's going on in this situation?
Well, hopefully pediatricians do a pretty good job. I do feel like once your child has a diagnosis, it's a lot easier to get services in any city. We do have a company or a group, it's not a company, called Share West Texas. And Share West Texas is for families of children with disabilities. And they do a really good job of working with your kids, also working with siblings. They do some respite care for parents. They do fun nights where the kids all come and do something and the parents get to leave for an hour and a half. Because a lot of times when you have a child with a disability, that's a really big thing. You don't get a break. Mom doesn't get a break. It's kind of 24/7. And then when they go to school, there's so many challenges when your child goes to school that it's just a really good organization to get plugged into around here. And I'm sure there are many organizations.
Right.
I know there's a lot of therapy places. We definitely have a need for it here in Odessa, Midland area. One of the speech language pathology places here in our city, I was told, had a 2-year wait list to get your child into therapy. So it varies from 2 years to probably 3 months. And so it's a challenge to get your kids services.
So what happens if you can't wait 2 years? I mean,
I actually had a mom call me
lost
today
time.
that she drives to Andrews
to get
to get
help,
services.
to get services and stuff. Okay, wow. I didn't realize that was that big of a weight.
Yes.
It was that important. Wow. You are also big into fitness. You can tell that I'm not big into fitness. So what fitness programs are you in? Because you're a vocal supporter of this. I follow you on socials. And so what fitness, what drew you into being in a fitness program?
Fitness program. I think I've just kind of always been athletic, as much as I'm not stellar athlete.
Except in hockey, right?
Exactly. I played ring out my whole life. Played some softball in there. We did some of those things. And then I started, when I moved to Odessa, I found a friend that ran and we'd run, me and a group from our church used to run all the time, like, let's go run to Midland. It's only 110 degrees outside. Perfect. Let's go.
Like run to Midland?
Like we would
really
just
run
to Midland. And we did, half marathons. Like we try to find 2 or 3 a year. And we did that for a long time. And it's kind of like everybody dispersed and moved. And then I got involved at Flex and just did workouts and stuff. And it was a lot more for sanity with my children. So I'd get up at 5 a.m. and have other moms. And it was like a therapy session. And then other life changes, you change. I just couldn't get up at 5:30 in the morning because my kids were older, and then my kids wanted to stay up half the night. And so we switched our schedule. So we joined Odessa CrossFit with Justin and Meredith Whitaker own that, and it has been a game changer. I love it, and I kind of am a fitness supporter.
Have you competed in any?
We do compete for fun, just for fun.
Why would you compete for fun?
Because I'm a little bit competitive, and I'm not young, and so in my brain, I just want to be able to keep up with the young folks. And my husband has to remind me sometimes, you're not 30, she's 30. I'm like, I can get her.
You've competed in some
Spartans?
Spartan? What is Spartan? Is that like an Ironman?
No, I couldn't do an Ironman. A Spartan is no. I can't swim. So
You can't what?
swim.
Swim.
Yeah.
That's important too.
It's important if you're not going to drown in the ocean. So a Spartan is just it mixes running with obstacle courses. So you have to climb up a rope, or you have to climb over a wall.
You've won this.
Well, no. I just do it.
Okay.
There's no winning it unless you're an elite athlete. One of the last one we did, it took us 6.5 hours to complete it.
Okay. I can
6.5
think of a lot
hours.
more things I would do with 6.5 hours.
Yeah, I'll never do it again,
Okay,
but
so
it was fun to do.
What's more impressive? You winning the Spartan
I didn't win anything.
No, I'm saying what would be more impressive? You winning a Spartan event or me giving up Chick-fil-A for a month? Which would be more impressive?
Probably me winning a Spartan. It's pretty far-fetched.
Chris, what do you think over there?
What'd you say?
What
I was editing photos.
What would be more impressive? Her winning a Spartan event or me giving up Chick-fil-A for a month? What would be more impressive?
Well, since she's already athletic and does pretty well on her own accord, the fact that you're an addict.
Are you an addict?
I am an
Are
addict
you?
of Chick-fil-A.
There's worse things to be addicted
Yeah.
to than
He's you
CrossFit or
did
Chick-fil-A.
say earlier off camera to eat greasy food.
Yeah, what was that? You said something about greasy
It's just good
food.
for your vocal cords.
What? How?
How else are you going to make your vocal cords grease them up to make them work better, right? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I talk a lot.
Talking works,
Which
but
I do.
a lot of water and liquid.
I
But
do
I'm
all
not
of that.
opposed to telling you to eat some grease and if you're having some issues with your
Now,
vocal
does
cords.
Todd do these Spartan things with you, or does he,
He does do
exercise
CrossFit
too, or
at-
does he go to Chick-fil-A like I do?
He does it really good, both. He does both.
Yeah.
He likes both. He really likes ice cream, and he likes CrossFit as well. So
I like ice cream too. What do you miss most about Canada?
I think my family.
Yeah.
And 4 Seasons. I miss my mom sent me videos of my dad plowing the snow off of the front walk this morning or yesterday, and I don't want to live in it anymore. She said it was only minus 20 today, so it was warming up.
So it's cold where
Yes,
you grew up.
Saskatchewan.
In Saskatchewan. Now, you've been saying some really weird words and saying other words in a very interesting dialect, maybe, or tone.
Okay.
But Hoos was funny, and then you've said some other things. But I asked the guy that I've had on my show before about milk in a bag of milk.
A bag of milk.
And you were telling me, and I want you to explain this, there's a door for this that is on every home?
On old school homes, they don't really
Old
do
school
it
homes.
anymore. But they
Okay,
used to have
explain
kind of
this.
used to have diaper delivery service. They used to have
What?
milk delivery service. So you could put your empty bags
Empty diapers?
and there are diaper
Full
delivery
diapers.
services. They wash everything for you. But that's
What?
besides the point. Yes, we were not cloth diaper people. But so you could get milk delivered to your house, and
Yeah.
next to your door, there's this little rectangle thing that they would open, and they just put your milk there, and then you'd open it from the inside.
That's great. And your kids thought it was a doggy
My
door.
kids thought maybe it was like a dog door or a cat door, but it's pretty high up.
Yeah, it's up like near the handle or whatever. Wow. What would you say are some highs and lows about your career and your job?
Highs and lows of my job. I love my job.
Yeah.
There is not a lot
It's
of
a tough
things.
job to
But
work.
there are not many days that I go home and I'm like, "Oh, I'm exhausted today. Like,
Really?
I don't want to go back." Now, if it is like that, it's usually a paperwork issue. It's an issue that I can't keep up with the demand of the job. And of course, I think that happens in everybody's job occupation. But it's never the kids. Like, I love my job. I feel bad for my children because their parents go to work every day and love what they do. Like, there's no complaining about what we do. It's hard sometimes to get to work with some teachers when you're like, no, you're going to do this. This is important. This is what this child needs. 99% of the teachers are game, but when you're going in to change things other people take very much pride in, sometimes it's a challenge to do that. And parents, sometimes my kids will tell you at school that I don't like their parents. And that's not really what I say, but I say I like kids better than parents. And so the kids are like, they go home and tell their parents, Miss Koba doesn't like you.
You like kids better than parents.
I do. I'd rather hang out with the kids all day than the parents.
That's kind of me too. So you have I'm assuming you have a team that you work with. Are you
Yes.
over that team?
No,
No?
I'm just a part of that team.
You're just a part of that team.
Yes. I used to be in ECISD. I was the lead speech pathologist for, a number of years. But now at Compass, I'm the only speech pathologist there.
So you're at Compass
I am.
Academy.
Yes.
Okay. And what is that school like? I mean, is it
Awesome.
well, of course it's awesome, but what is that school like?
It's K to 12.
Yeah.
And so we have, I think, 5-ish classrooms for every grade level. They're raising money to build like a baseball field and a field house and a track to start
That
some new
house again.
programs. to
Field
get some
house.
new programs. But yeah, I love it. I love my job. Can't complain about my job.
What are some hobbies that you guys do?
Besides CrossFit,
Besides CrossFit.
I CrossFit.
Yeah, because that's not a hobby. Work.
Well, I think my
Do you guys
hobbies,
travel? Do you guys?
not a lot of traveling we do, but we're in a pretty expensive part of our life when we have kids in college and kids in hockey, so we work a lot. I work with a new group at our church called Embrace Grace, which is kind of like a new little
I
passion
want to
right
ask
now.
about that. Yeah.
And it is kind of changing perspectives from people in the church. I've been in the church a lot of years. I know I look 30, but I'm not. And so I've seen a lot of maybe judgment in the church for people going through hard things and making poor choices. And it's kind of a really neat program about loving people, just loving women with unexpected pregnancies, and just loving them through their choices, whether they choose to keep the baby or they choose to give a baby up for adoption. It's just loving them through that, presenting the gospel to them. A lot of them, hear about this program through Permian High School or Odessa High School, and they're young. The last group I led was 6 girls, all 15, 16, 17.
That had experience.
They were
unwanted
all pregnant.
pregnancy. Wow.
And maybe 1 or 2 came from a home. They were both from Catholic homes. But just being able to love them like Jesus would love them in a real way was really, I'm excited for that. We're going to do like a parenting class. I don't even remember what it's called. But we're going to continue the program. I believe right now they have 3 groups running. So it's grown. Like, it hasn't even been a year that we started it at our church. And I bet we've had 7 groups so far, maybe. So
Was this something that you birthed, you launched, or did you get with somebody and
no,
do that?
our pastor's wife, actually Tessa, she is the one who just decided this was such a need. And don't quote me here online, but I think we are the highest teen pregnancy rate in the U.S.
Really?
Yes, I think
In the
like
Permian Basin?
in the Permian Basin. I think Texas has the highest teen pregnancy rate, and the Permian Basin is the highest in Texas. So we have a very large need here. And most times kids don't want to come to church. They feel shame. They feel all of those things, and we just want them to come and get loved on and kind of change perspectives a little bit that way.
What are you doing right now to work on yourself? Like, what are some things you're reading or you're listening to, you're involved in that help you with you?
What are things about myself? I feel like I'm involved in a women's Bible study. Now I do lead that, but it is very, I'm one of those people that are more in the Word when I'm doing a Bible study. And so we just actually finished our last 6 weeks. So that's something that I've been kind of, I enjoy doing for myself. I would say besides leading Bible studies, I'm still involved in the middle school group at the church. And CrossFit would be my only other hobby.
CrossFit, there's that fitness thing.
CrossFit,
In
that
there.
Embrace Grace,
Yeah. What song would you want played when you walk into a room? Like you're walking into a
You
room.
could have asked me this question
and this-
before.
No, absolutely not.
I don't know.
Like, what song do you want? You walk into the room and boom, that song is on.
I got nothing.
Who sings that?
I don't-
Is it a Taylor Swift song?
You want to know something funny? I don't listen to music
Really?
unless it's worship music. My children would make fun of me for that answer. I'm at that point in my life when your dad used to turn off the radio in the car and say, "I just want some silence."
What do you listen to?
I'm so there.
You
I
listen
just
to
want
nothing?
silence.
How can you do that?
They asked a question the other day to our youth group about what is the worst sound that you can hear, and the kids were like, a knife cutting or nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
And you know what I said? Talk show radio.
Podcast?
Well, not necessarily podcast, but like talk show. My husband loves to listen to
Yeah.
political things on talk show radio.
Well, okay, so you said, what's the worst thing that you could hear? For me, it would be we're out of Chick-fil-A sauce. That's the worst thing.
Worst thing ever.
That I would.
The gym is closed.
Yeah, the gym is closed would be great.
Yeah.
So, all right, so I kind of want to wrap this up. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Appreciate you being here. But I want people to get to know you a little bit more. Who do you listen to? I mean, we're sitting at this table, and so if you had the opportunity to invite someone to sit at your table, pour into you, it's a big thing. Chris interviewed me last week, and I talked about the people that I allow to sit and pour into. I used to be like with everybody. I want everybody to pour into me and stuff, and I've shrunk that down quite a bit. And it's not because of how old I've gotten. It's just because of some of the things that have happened to me in places, the burning, so to speak. So who do you listen to? Who do you allow to sit at your table that gets to talk and pour into Johnny?
I would say my parents, my brother, Todd's mom and sister, who actually sister is like my best friend. My table's pretty small, like you said. It's funny how that happens. Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick someone like famous or something like a Lisa Turkhurst or, somebody like that, that I think it's important for people to show their flaws. Like if you know me and you know my family, you know that we deal with addictions. You know that we have divorce in our family. You know that we have a child with autism. We have all of these things. And for you, pretty much in the first 15 minutes of knowing us, you're going to know at least that. Because I don't ever want people to look at us and be like, oh, look, they're just living their best life, doing CrossFit and working their jobs they love, because that's not the truth. Yes, we're working our jobs and doing what we love to do, but it's because of God's grace that we get to do that. And it's because he's poured into us and allowed us to do that. Once a month we have the UTPB boys football team come over and we feed them, just because I want people to see, you know what, you can go into people's houses just because. You don't have to give me anything. God's called me this year. And we were talking earlier about Melissa and Kenny. Kenny and I would mock people that had words for the year, like, what's your word this year? And we'd mock it, and then we'd be like, what's yours? And we'd both have one. We both have a word. And this
I have a
year-
word every year, by the
every
way.
year we have a word. See, and I'd make fun of you, and then I'd tell you, well, my word this year is to serve. And I feel like it's a very, almost like a lonely season of serving, because nobody else wants to serve with you, and you learn that real quick.
Right.
I have one friend, and she will come up and whatever, I'm like, hey, let's do this. She's like, I'm in. Or she'll call me and, hey, I have this opportunity. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. But it's a very small group of people that want to serve. And not that I'm saying yes to everything at all, but God has really put some things on my heart, like Embrace Grace or serving like feeding people and doing some opportunities like that to serve and to just because that's what I've kind of been taught to do. And it's changed my perspective on people. One of the girls that I hang out with, and she won't care if I talk about her, I'm sure, but she comes from a background where her whole family are addicts, and her whole family, her mom, had her on drugs at 12. And she's like, I've run into rooms and shot guns and told people, and I'm like, oh,
Wow.
But in this season, like, I love her, and she, like, God is real in her life. Like, the change she has is so evident. The mom she's becoming is so evident. And yet for me, that was a hard thing because I came from a Christian background. My brother's a pastor, my parents work in the church, my sister, everybody works in the church. I didn't know people outside of the church. But I remember the kids that came and lived at my parents' house when they were going through turmoil at their houses and going through rebellious stages. And I remember the example my parents were about just loving people where they at, And sometimes parents need breaks, and that's okay. They can come live here and be loved.
And you said, you came from a Christian home, so there's that miscommunication or misunderstanding that, everything's going to be rosy and everything's going to be perfect. But knowing your story, you've had divorce in your family, you have an autistic child, you work in that field. What would you say to a young family, maybe in their mid-20s, early 30s, they're experiencing some of this for the very first time. They've got a child. They're walking through divorce. They're walking through those. You've been there. You've walked that road. What would be one advice that you would give to them?
I think to find a person, somebody that like you said, pours into you. Like I met with someone throughout my divorce. I met with a lady in the church that poured into me with biblical principles. Not that she told me, get a divorce or don't get a divorce. But we're going to dive into the Bible, and we're going to dive into what God says. And I think the best advice anybody told me during that time was, whether God tells you to take him back or walk away, be close enough to God that you know what he's saying. That when you hear his voice, you're ready to act on that.
Wow.
And I think that's important too when you're parenting a child that's different, whether it's a child with a disability or a child with ADHD or just, a wild monkey, to parent like no one's watching. Somebody told me that once too, like you have to parent like no one's watching, because if you're always concerned about the other people and keeping up with them, you're going to do a disservice to this child that God's placed in your house.
What do you want to be known for?
Hopefully, I'm known for loving people. I don't want to be known to be a judgy person or, that I...
Judgy.
Judgy.
Yeah.
I want to be known for loving people and loving my family well.
Yeah.
And for being a good example of who Jesus is.
Appreciate your honesty and things that you've shared. It's been great to spend some time with you again. It's been a while.
It's been a long while.
Since I married you guys in my living room and stuff, and I'm glad that took and that you're still married.
Yes. Today, actually, shout out to my husband. It's his 13-year sobriety day today.
Really?
It
Well,
is.
congratulations, Todd. That's awesome. That's a huge
Proud of him.
achievement. Yeah. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. Thanks for everyone joining with us. We will make sure that you will like, subscribe, and share this episode. We'll see you next time.
Elevate your operation with Performance Chemical Company, the pioneers in redefining chemical solutions for the oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin. Unveiling groundbreaking ideas since 2017, our dry chemistry plant stands as a testament to innovation. Our products and services revolutionize water treatment, production, midstream, and saltwater disposals. We're your strategic partners in optimizing investments, slashing operating expenses. Performance Chemical Company. How you get there matters.